So let's jump into the deep end with MHL's fundamentals. First thing that jumps out, those promoters are sitting on a big old pile of stock, like 70%.
Yeah, 70% is a significant chunk.
Feels-
Shows they believe in the company.
Exactly. Confidence, right? But, and this is but with a capital B, their hydropower capacity, it's kind of tiny, just 4 megawatts.
Yeah, that's
Not exactly powering a small city, let alone a whole country, right?
no, definitely not. And that's a key point to consider, especially with hydropower. Bigger usually means better economies of scale, more revenue.
So if you're in this for the long haul, this could be a slow burn.
Could be, yeah.
And speaking of long hauls, let's talk about this PE ratio. Over 1,300. Can you believe that?
Wow, yeah, that's high.
That's like waiting over 1,000 years for your investment to pay off, if it ever does. So the market, it seems, is pretty darn optimistic about MHL, but that PE ratio is giving me pause, you know?
Yeah, it's a signal to be cautious. Suggests the stock might be a tad overvalued at the moment, even with all the hype around hydropower.
And to make matters even more interesting, that dividend yield. Yeah, let's just say it's not going to fund your early retirement.
Not anytime soon now.
So we've got this mixed bag right out the gate. Strong promoter confidence, but that tiny capacity and a PE ratio that's, well, through the roof. So how do we make sense of all this? Okay, so we've poked around in MHL's financials, and yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But before we make any big pronouncements, let's talk about the stock's performance. Because, I mean, who doesn't love a good stock market success story, right? And MHL, well, they've got a story, all right? Last year alone, this stock shot up, get this, 155%.
Wow.
Triple digits. I mean, if you'd bought this a year ago, you'd be sipping lemonade on a beach somewhere by now.
That's quite a run.
Yeah, especially compared to the overall hydropower sector, they only saw about 41% growth. So clearly, MHL's doing something right.
Or are they? See, here's the thing about these massive price spikes.
Sometimes it's a bit artificial.
Yeah, like what do they call it? A momentum-driven rally. Everyone piles in because they see the price going up. But it's not always, based on the company's actual performance.
Exactly. It's sentiment driving the price, not necessarily fundamentals. Right. So is MHL the real deal, or are we looking at a bubble ready to burst? Now, before we get too carried away, the analysis you sent over, it mentioned MHL's price took a bit of a dip recently, right? From its all-time high of NPR 1080.
Right.
So is this a blip, a chance to buy the dip, as they say, or is this like the beginning of the end?
Yeah, that's the million rupee question.
And that's where the technical indicators come in, right? Those signals hidden in the charts. What are they whispering about MHL's future?
Okay, well, let's see. First, we've got the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. Think of it like a measure of the stock's momentum.
Okay.
And right now, MHL's RSI is sitting at 44.68. So pretty neutral, actually.
So no strong signals there either way.
Not from the RSI, no. It's
Yeah.
like the market's just watching and waiting right now.
Holding its breath.
Exactly. But it gets more interesting when we look at the MAS CD. That stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence. But don't worry too much about the name.
Okay, so what's the MAS CD saying?
It's flashing a bit of a warning sign, actually, suggesting that the price might dip further. And it's not alone. The stochastic oscillator, another indicator, is also pointing towards a potential downturn.
So both of these, they're painting a bit of a bearish picture.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay, so we've got those mixed signals from the fundamentals, a stock history that's, well, exciting to say the least, and now these technical indicators waving red flags. So what's an investor to do? So it's like we're trying to solve a puzzle here, but some of the pieces, they're kind of blurry, We've got the fundamentals, the stock's wild ride, and those technical indicators all pointing in different directions.
It can be a bit overwhelming trying to put it all together.
It really can. But here's the thing. We got to remember, we can't just look at MHL in isolation, right? We got to zoom out, see the bigger picture. Like, how's the overall hydropower sector doing? Because, hey, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly.
And speaking of rising tides, the hydropower sector, it's been booming. Over 41% returns last year. So maybe MHL's success. Maybe it's not a fluke. Maybe it's a sign of things to come.
It's possible. There's definitely a lot of momentum in the renewable energy space right now.
Right. So is MHL just riding the wave, or are they like the next big thing? It's tough to say for sure. But one thing that does stand out in a good way is their debt-to-equity ratio.
Right. That's something we should definitely consider.
Yeah, it's super low, meaning they haven't been borrowing like crazy to fuel their growth, which in the world of finance is a good thing.
Definitely a good sign. Shows they're managing their finances responsibly.
Exactly. But still, we've got this mixed bag, right? So what's the final word? Should you buy MHL, hold on to your shares, or cut your losses and run? Well, it all comes down to, you guessed it, your risk tolerance.
Risk tolerance is key.
Absolutely. If you're a risk taker, if you're in it for the long haul, well, MHL, it could be a wild ride, but potentially a rewarding one. Especially with that low debt-to-equity ratio, they might just have what it takes to weather the storms.
But investors need to be prepared for volatility. This is not a stock for the faint of heart.
No, definitely not. Now, if you're already holding MHL, you're probably feeling a bit conflicted right now. My advice: if you believe in the long-term potential of hydropower, especially in a place like Nepal, maybe you hold on, see what happens.
But if you're closer to retirement, if you need that money soon, it might be a good time to take those profits and run.
Exactly. Those technical indicators, they're giving us a heads up. The price might dip even further. So, sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. So there you have it. We've covered a lot of ground here today. MHL, it's a bit of a mystery wrapped in a riddle, right?
It is, but that's the stock market for you.
Ain't that the truth? But hey, that's what makes it exciting, right? The thrill of the unknown.
Absolutely. And with a little bit of research, careful consideration, investors can make informed decisions.
Exactly. And on that note,